Good evening, everyone. It's so great to be here with you all. My name is David Dwight IV. I'm the Executive Director and Lead Strategy Catalyst at Ford Through Ferguson. And for this evening, I have the honor of serving as your moderator. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. I'm a resident of this community and so happy to see so many of my fellow neighbors and residents here to engage in this important process of having your voice heard. So thank you so much for taking your time out of your evening to join us. It really means a lot. So first off, before I jump any further into the agenda, I want to thank Jonathan Strong and SLPS for this space and hosting us here. We appreciate this forum. Secondly, I want to take a moment to recognize any elected officials that may be here in the audience. If you'd like to stand up and be recognized. I think we also want to give a moment, if Treasurer, if you have anything to say.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Lane, and I'm your St. Louis City Treasurer. I want to first and foremost thank you all for being here. I also see some faces from O'Fallon, so thank you for being here twice. I serve as a city treasurer, and I'm very interested and intrigued to be here to hear what you all have to say about how we spend this money, and so is everyone behind me as well. I had the opportunity to oversee and manage a piece of the funding that came in earlier, or this time last year, and excited to see what we do with the next group of, or the next tranche of money. I will encourage you all, so you all will have a chance to speak, and they'll talk to you about this as well. But in addition to telling us how we should spend this money, what I heard last time we did this was a lot of information and a lot of detail about not just the policies or the big bucket categories to spend this on, but also how we can make sure that we're actually meeting those needs. So please be as detailed as you can in 3 minutes. But please be as detailed as you can and let us know, because the people up here behind me, the other officials that are in the room, your fellow neighbors, the parents, principals, school teachers, everyone who's in here, want to make sure that those voices, those concerns are heard, and that we move St. Louis forward. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak, and I look forward to everything that you have to say tonight.
So as many of you all know, the federal government has allocated $500 million in COVID-19 relief funds to St. Louis City. I know that's a lot of money, but we get to have a say in how that money is spent and invested into our communities. So the mayor's office has been leading an ARPA, community needs survey, since early April, to hear from you on how you want to prioritize the funding for our city. So far in that survey, over 4,700 people have responded, a really amazing amount, but we can always have more, which is why would love to hear from your voices here today. So if you have not taken the survey, then please do visit the check-in table and get a paper copy of that so that you can fill it out, return it back to the desk, and have your voice heard as part of this survey. So for today's event, I'm gonna ask you, please be respectful, silence your phones, minimize any side conversations so that we can make sure that people's voices are being amplified and heard, and that we're having one conversation together. We're really excited for that robust conversation and appreciate you doing your part so that everybody can hear. Town halls like this are so incredibly important for civic engagement. This is David speaking from my perspective, but I know this hasn't always been the position of administrations to have this many public forums. So it really means a lot for you to be making that kind of commitment to this forum of open engagement from residents. And this is exactly why Mayor Jones and other key leaders from the administration cabinet are here today. And so we'll get to their introductions in a moment. So for today's town hall, Mayor Jones will provide an overview of the American Rescue Plan Act, that's ARPA funds, how the city has utilized this funding so far, and also highlight some key next steps in the process. We'll then start with some previously submitted written questions, and following that, it'll all be open for public comment for you people in the room that have signed up and are ready to come to the mic and have your voices heard. So we really look forward to tonight's conversation, and thanks again for being a part of this town hall. So without any further ado, let's introduce Mayor Jones, who's going to share a bit more information about ARPA. So Mayor Jones, welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, David, for being such a great moderator, and thank you all for being here. As mayor, it's a priority for me to stay connected with you so I can have the best understanding of your needs. Every day I enter room 200 with the mission of making our city a better place for everyone to thrive, regardless of the color of their skin, who they love, how they worship, or any identity they hold. Events like this town hall help me do just that. As you all know, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to use $500 million in federal funds to make our city stronger and safer across racial lines and across zip codes. It's going to take all of us working together to make this a reality, and your voice is critical in how we shape our city's future. You're here tonight because you are invested in this vision too. Now let's jump into this brief PowerPoint I have prepared for you. Next slide. We're going to discuss a few key points, review how we're using our first round of funding to make our city healthier, safer, and fairer, and lastly, we'll take a closer look at all the city ARPA funded programs. There's some feedback on this mic. There we go. Can you hear me? Great. The American Rescue Plan, or ARPA, is federal funding that was distributed to states and cities to address the effects of COVID-19 in our communities. As I said before, this is a once-in-a-generation funding opportunity, but it comes with a timeline. We must program all of our $500 million by 2024, and it must be spent by 2026. We're doing our best to be responsible stewards of this money by funding programs that fall within the U.S. Treasury guidelines of eligible uses of revenue replacement, COVID-19 response, premium pay for essential workers, and investment in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Before we jump into the details, let's talk about how we got here. In June 2021, the city received its first half of ARPA funding totaling $249 million. My administration collaborated with city departments and the Board of Aldermen to develop the budget for fiscal year 2022. That budget went into effect in July 2021. $17 million went towards replacing revenue in our city budget, and in August 2021, we appropriated $122 million for programs to support St. Louis families, including $12.4 million for emergency rental assistance, which we are now collaborating with St. Louis County on implementing. With a large chunk of our first round funding programmed, my team and city departments got to work on setting up programs to directly invest in families and communities. From September 2021 to today, thousands of families received direct payments to put food on the table, and hundreds of youth have received free transit. Nearly 1,000 businesses have applied for small business assistance. We'll go into more detail on these programs in a future slide. Now let's fast forward to April 2022. Last month, my office launched the ARPA Community Needs Survey to get an understanding of how residents want $250 million in remaining ARPA funding to be spent. That's also why we're here tonight. And just last week, I signed legislation appropriating funding for infrastructure improvements throughout the city and delivering economic aid to North St. Louis. Later this month or in early June, the city is expected to receive the remaining half of ARPA funding. When I think about our road to recovery, it can be summarized in 4 general themes: youth programming, protecting communities from COVID, investing in neighborhood resources, and supporting St. Louis working families. My administration is ensuring that we fund the future of our city's most precious asset, our children. Our work with Bi-State has expanded the Gateway Go Transit program and is providing free Metrolink passes year-round to hundreds of youth aged 13 to 25 to help connect them to school and work. Youth sports programs like our basketball league earlier this year have served hundreds of kids and given them safe places to go after school. Protecting families from COVID is a top priority, and we implemented a COVID-19 vaccination program and gift card incentive program. We've dedicated millions to expanding our community violence intervention efforts to make our neighborhoods safer, and that's on top of thousands of direct payments to help people pay bills and small business assistance applications. We've also provided household assistance through our emergency rental assistance program, and we invested in the real estate tax assistance fund to help more than a dozen families keep their homes. But did you know that this week is Infrastructure Week? I signed the St. Louis infrastructure bill earlier this month, investing $69 million for much-needed capital improvements, including repaving major streets, trimming our trees, filling our potholes, addressing illegal dumping, and upgrading our recreation centers. I also signed, thank you. It's pretty important stuff. I also signed Board Bill 82, which will move $39 million for small business growth in North St. Louis, and it will help make our neighborhoods across the city more ADA compliant. It's legislation like this that help build stronger communities so everyone can thrive, because we cannot succeed together if more than half of our city is left to fail. With $250 million still headed to St. Louis, we want to hear from you about where this money should be spent to address community needs. The Community Needs Survey focuses on 7 categories for investments. They include household assistance, neighborhood transformation, economic empowerment, government services, public health, infrastructure, and children or youth. This survey is one tool for community engagement. In addition to these town halls, I've also hosted several roundtables with community leaders to get a better understanding of what they need to do their jobs better and have a larger impact in our community. I believe those closest to the problem are also closest to the solution. So tell me what you think we can do to help St. Louis recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, and I look forward to your discussion. Lastly, as we wrap up, I want to make sure that we share helpful information on how to access and navigate the ARPA website. This is a landing page for all things ARPA related in the city. You can access our transparency portal, see the current list of ARPA related RFPs, and read through our ARPA funding report. As I mentioned earlier, the ARPA Resource Guide is an overview of what we funded to date. It's online, and it gives a clear breakdown of our ARPA-funded programs. If you still have any questions, you can email stlaarpa@stlouis-mo.gov or call 314-622-3201. Thank you again for your time, and I'll hand things back over to David to get us started.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones, for that really informative presentation. So at this time, we're going to take an opportunity to introduce the rest of the people at this table, the cabinet members of the Jones administration. So if each of you could please stand and introduce yourself, state your name and the department you oversee, and we'll start over here. Great.
I'm Rich Bradley. I'm the president of the Board of Public Service. What that means is I'm the city's chief engineer, and so I supervise all the engineering, planning, design, and construction of major capital improvement projects, like major street reconstructions, bridges, buildings, things of that nature.
Thank you.
I'm Dan Isom, the Director of Public Safety. Under Public Safety, you have police, fire, corrections, buildings, the Citizens Oversight team. You also have the Excise Commissioner and also the City Emergency Management. So there are 8 different divisions under the Director of Public Safety.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Mati Tlachwayo Davis. I'm your Director of Health for the city. My department oversees main priorities, COVID-19 and non-COVID related priorities that include behavioral health, violence prevention, and chronic disease. Also, under the Department of Health, are folks that do the work of communicable disease, women, children, and adolescent health, all things environmental health. And you may not think about this, but food inspections, animal control, and emergency preparedness. These are the men and women that led you through and kept the city safe through the pandemic. And I see some of our other healthcare heroes right here today.
Good evening. I'm Ken Flake, Commissioner of Streets, filling in for Director Williams. The streets, we do all the street maintenance you guys see out there. Traffic signals, street lights, street signs, street painting, refuse, towing, and any inspection out there. As far as contractors doing work, we're the ones that, if it's in the right of way, we're the ones inspecting.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Greg Hayes, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry. Rights like St. Louis and Soulard Market also fall under our purview and management. Parks, we have 110 parks citywide. We're very proud of them. Hopefully, most of you live right near one within walking distance. Forestry, we handle all the trees in what's called the parkway or the tree lawn between the sidewalk and the curb in front of your homes, in front of your properties. Recreation, we handle property maintenance with forestry as well too, to the best of our ability. And then recreation, we have 7 active rec centers, and we contract with the YMCA for 2 others in O'Fallon Park and in Toronto Left. Our main office is at 5600 Clayton. Forestry is downtown, and thanks again for being here. We really appreciate that.
Thank you all for your introductions. So when all of you RSVP'd to this town hall, you had the opportunity to submit questions in advance. So we've compiled those, heard those, and we're going to start our conversation with a few of them. And following that, we'll open it up for questions from the audience. So again, a couple general housekeeping rules. We're going to keep our comments and questions respectful. If you don't feel comfortable asking your question out loud, you can write it on a comment card, and it can be read aloud for you. If we don't have time for your question, please know that that's not the end of the world. There are several mayor's office staff members here, and they will get back to you with a response. So please be respectful and silence your phones again and minimize any side conversation so that everybody can access this important conversation. So without further ado, we'll start with the first question. So this first submitted question is, how will we ensure equity and transparency once funds are distributed? For example, there are several organizations in Dutchtown currently. What practices will be put in place to make sure those organizations are allocating funds fairly and properly?
Didn't know if this question was for me or not. Hi. So we will ensure equity and transparency of funds distributed by tracking key performance indicators, or KPIs. KPIs will include output and outcome measures to measure progress toward an intended result. We'll share more information about KPIs as programs are implemented, and we've also developed an ARPA transparency portal that shows in detail information the ARPA obligations, expenditures, and programs. And you can find that on the ARPA website that I mentioned earlier.
So our second submitted question that we have is, how will ARPA money be used to help reduce vacancy?
So our first appropriation of ARPA funds in Board Bill 2 included $15 million to strengthen and expand the city's home repair program. This program currently helps over 200 low-income homeowners, predominantly seniors, repair their homes each year and keep them from becoming vacant. While traditionally each home has been individually bid, these funds, which do not require environmental or historic review, are being attached to master contracts with contractors specializing in plumbing, electricity, roofing, and other common repairs. This will allow us to deploy these funds faster. And when I came into office, we had a wait list of over 1,000 homeowners, and we've already taken 200 applications, predominantly in North St. Louis, off of that wait list. Additionally, we're working with our partners, Mission St. Louis and Habitat for Humanity, to establish an online portal which homeowners will be able to apply for emergency assistance to address urgent needs such as collapsed sewer lines, leaking roofs, severe electrical hazards, or critical ADA accessibility repairs. Additionally, in next year's budget, which is now before the Board of Aldermen, that includes $5 million in ARPA funds to establish a building stabilization fund. And these funds will be deployed to preserve and rehabilitate vacant buildings wherever possible and demolish or deconstruct vacant buildings when necessary. The strategic litigation asserting the building commissioner's authority under the building code to recoup stabilization costs from nuisance property owners will stretch funds for maximum impact. And what that really means is if you're an absentee landlord and you own one of these vacant buildings, we will bill you for the repairs that we do and get our money back.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I think we have time for probably about 2 more of these before we get to the public comment, all of you. So the third submitted question is about accessibility of these funds. How will city grant-making processes and requirements shift to allow small and grassroots nonprofits to have access to these funds?
Well, we recognize that smaller organizations may not have the staff or capacity to monitor for monitoring and reporting, which is required by the bids. So we partnered with Simply Strategy to address barriers and provide support to apply for larger city programs. And we did this recently with the $5.5 million in ARPA funds that we distributed for community violence intervention programs, and that allowed 8 recipients to put bids together and apply for those funds.
As an executive director of a smaller nonprofit, that is so crucial for that accessibility, especially for small organizations that are doing the work but don't have all that admin staff to report on it as clearly. Thanks for that answer. So our last one, how will ARPA funds be used to help St. Louis residents get access to long and short-term mental health support?
Great question. The ARPA survey asked under the public health section how we should prioritize investments. And one of those areas is to increase access to services for mental health and substance abuse issues through social workers and other non-police personnel. We continue to review the survey responses to better understand how residents want to see long and short-term investments. And currently, the Department of Health is creating a new division focused on behavioral health, and this will tie into our mental health support needs. We've also programmed $5 million in ARPA funds for behavioral health providers to address mental health support. The Cops and Clinicians program we currently have in the police department works to dispatch mental health providers to the scene and divert individuals to care instead of further contact with law enforcement. And our call diversion line through 911 also helps lighten the load on our police responders by connecting callers in need directly to behavioral health support.
Thank you so much. And so that concludes our pre-submitted questions, and we're going to move on to the main event, all of you. So again, really appreciate your time coming out here and taking it out of your busy lives. I know there's a lot going on, and so it means a lot that you made the commitment to show up here and share your voice. So my thanks again. So for public comment, each individual is going to have 3 minutes to share their comment and question. And please, if you are doing a question, not a comment, make sure that there is a question in there and that you end with that so that we can appropriately direct it and make sure that we get an answer to you. Up here on the projector screen, if you all can see, there is a timer for 3 minutes. Now, I love y'all. I want you all to have all the time in the world to share all your heart's desires up here, but we got to be respectful of everybody else. So I am going to be hard on this 3-minute time limit. It's not because I don't like you. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to share their voice. So there's going to be a couple cards that'll be held up. If you can see right over here, so if you're standing, you should be able to look over and know if you're getting towards the end of your time. But when it hits that 3 minutes, I warned you. Just know I warned you. I will make sure we keep this moving. From there, if you plan to submit public comment, you can come and stand in a line behind this center microphone, and we'll go one by one from there to make sure we can hear as many people as possible. Again, as a reminder, 3 minutes for that public comment. Madison, over here by the computer, again, has those cards, and when your time is about to expire, I'll let you know. One more thing is that if we're not able to get through everybody that has a question, or if you're cut off and you had a little bit more to say, don't worry, that's not your last opportunity. We have Barb Potts here, who is an NSI that you can talk to afterwards to share what that question is, make sure your comment is heard, and there's mayor's office staff around as well that can hear your questions. So again, they tried to make as many avenues as possible to make sure your voice is heard. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and begin with the first common question. So if you could just make sure that you share your name, and if you'd like to, the ward or neighborhood that you live in.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. Giving respect to specific places and occupations. I'm a senior citizen on the north side, St. Louis City. What I'm questioning is if I have a 120-year-old building and I'm not actually trying to take a large portion of the money for repairing of that building. It's a family-owned property. I don't have total control of the property, but I live in the property. What I want to know is there are temporary fixes that could be done that could improve my lifestyle of the house. Is that under consideration? Does everything have to be code, modernized, up to date?
Thanks so much for that question. Would anybody like to take that one? Mayor Jones?
Rich Bradley, do you want to take that one on the home repair? Is Noel here for home repair? Noel? Yes. So, long story short, there are some qualifications for the home repair program, and I'm not aware of all of them. However, Noel over here, who's raising his hand, can get your information and try to see if we can help. Because again, there are qualifications that I'm not aware of, but Noel knows this program inside and out. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please feel free to.
Hi, my name is Dana Gray. I live in the 8th Ward. Thank you for providing this opportunity. I wanted to make sure that you know about the St. Louis Healthy Homes and Energy Efficient Coalition. It is a group of representatives from all sorts of agencies that do home health visits, as well as home repair programs, weatherization program. And we're trying to find a way so that we can have an electronic referral system between our agencies so that when a resident calls for help and someone goes to their home and assesses their needs, they're not going to just get the child enrolled in the Asthma and Allergy Foundation. Perhaps they will also get enrolled in the home repair program, because we are trying to develop a universal enrollment form that can be shared so that there's electronic referrals between agencies. And this has been in the works for 6-7 years. And we have not had funding to launch the software that's needed for this program. And St. Louis County's Health Department is involved, as well as some members from St. Louis City have been involved as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a next person in line? Yeah, please do.
Hi, my name is David Garcia. I live on Grand and Neosho. I have a two-family there. I came to specifically ask that we restore the Virginia Theater in South Dutchtown. It is not an entire city block size, but it is a block in the center of that area. It's the landmark of that area. There are new businesses in that area that would get a boost. There are properties, additional properties on your inventory that would suddenly become more interesting if that type of construction began. It would be a significant project. I've been there with qualified personnel, $800 to $1 million, but you get it back. I believe that is the catalyst that neighborhood needs, is the building that's already there. And I believe that that neighborhood will rise and fall with that building as long as it exists. I believe you have homeowners in that area that would feel vindicated in their choice to live there. You have homeowners in that area that would feel vindicated in their choice to remain there. It's a small thing I think we can do. I don't think we should bring it back as a theater in terms of performance. I think we should bring it back physically as a theater, which is an open space with a stage, and make it available for public use. I think we could be competitive with, say, any number of places in Soulard. And I think it can generate enough revenue to keep the door open, keep the doors open, at least until the neighborhood itself rises. And then demand for that area becomes, and it's a significant, I don't know if you know anything about this building. It's on the National Historic Registry. It's one of the reasons you're having a difficult time getting rid of it, because there's, you have to comply with so many rules. And those rules should be in place. It's a historically significant building, but it's just sitting there dilapidated and becoming more so. It looks nice on the outside still. Inside, it's a complete gut rehab. As I said, I've been there with a contractor, but I think that it's a crisis in the area, and I think it's a great opportunity for the area. And well, that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. My name is Renee Badnock. I currently live in the Tower Grove South neighborhood, but I grew up in Hamilton Heights on the corner of Etzel and Hamilton. And in the neighborhood that I was living in, without a car, every aspect of my life revolved around trying to figure out how to get places. And a simple trip to the grocery store might take as long as 45 minutes because of walking and because of lack of public transportation. I'm sorry if my voice shakes, I'm very nervous, but this is also something that I feel very, very passionately about. I would love to see St. Louis spend some of the ARPA funds to increase public transportation. I will ask a question at the end, but I would also like to share. In St. Louis last year, there were 20 pedestrian deaths and 189 injuries, and these tragically affect Black communities at a rate of 2 to 1 compared to white communities. It is 3.5 times the national average, and of pedestrian death rates, and it is a shame and a tragedy for our community. One of the first times that I realized it did not have to be this way was when I was reading a poem by St. Louis author and activist Ntozake Shange, where she writes about taking the Hodemont streetcar, which was right down the street from me, to the riverfront. And I realized that St. Louis had a really incredible public transportation system, which I began to research. It was internationally known as one of the best systems in the world, and it was gutted due to racist policies. I believe that increasing public transportation is vital for our health as a community, and I would love to hear if there are ways that we are currently planning on increasing access to public transportation, and what are ways we as citizens can add our voices and our efforts to that. Thank you for your time. Also, you look so lovely today, Mayor.
Well, wanted to answer your question. Also the bipartisan infrastructure law provides a whole host of investments in public transit. And I personally met with Secretary Pete Buttigieg about a month and a half ago. Thank you. He's a close friend of mine too. So, but to explain how I am so committed to expanding the North-South Metro in this administration. So we're working closely with our partners at Bi-State, also working closely with our partners in the county to finish their study as well, because it's not just north-south for the city. We're trying to take it north into the county as well. Because when my child was a lot younger and needed a babysitter, my babysitter lived in North County. It took her 2 hours to get to my house on public transit. And I could go pick her up and take her back home twice by the time it took her to get to my house once on the bus. So I am committed to completing or starting at least the North-South Metro while I'm here. Mm-hmm.
Good evening. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. I really appreciate every one of you. I really appreciate what you've done. And I want to come on behalf of a special project I have. First, my name is Carolyn E. Dilworth. I have a 501c3 called Preparation for Success. And we have a program called 40 Parcels and a Truck. It might resonate with some people familiar with history. The slaves were given so many acres of land and a mule to start a new life. So I decided to make that kind of like the theme of my program, to provide affordable homes for single moms, veterans, felons, and other marginal populations. Now, the reason why I'm here is because I am interested in a community/resident bank. And the reason why I'm interested in that is because I'm trying to acquire property, but my credit is so bad, I cannot even get a loan. I can't even get an equity. I have over $150,000 worth of equity. I can't even get an equity loan. And it's all because of my credit. And I said, I know what the problem is. The banking system doesn't work for us. So I'm thinking about a community residential bank, a bank that's for the people and by the people. You probably already have something similar to it, but in my understanding, most of those banks don't even fund the North County. They use our funds, but they do not give us loans. So I am just one of those type of person who cannot get a loan to rehab. I have roughly 5 to 7 parcels in Hyde Park, and it's a challenge for me just to get funds to rehab, to make those homes affordable and available to my community. So one of the things that I'm asking you guys, and you probably already done this before, I live in Cotterville, by the way, but my property is in Hyde Park. And I was hoping that you can share with me any programs that you have already in place that will provide or help us get the fundings we need to rehab. The young man right there, I understand you. I have old homes because I buy CDA and LRA properties They're old, they have a lot of, they need a lot of repairs, but I have bad credit and I cannot get a loan. I can't even get a line of credit. So my question is that something that I can kind of hope for, a community bank that will kind of be specifically for high-risk people like myself? And then, I got 15 seconds, I also want a trust fund. I'll talk about that in the next meeting, but thank you for hearing me. Bye-bye.
Wait, don't go anywhere, don't go anywhere. Treasurer Lane, before Treasurer Lane was treasurer, I was treasurer for 8 years, and he has taken over the treasurer's office in a magnificent way, and one of the programs we started was the Office of Financial Empowerment, and we fixed your credit for free.
Okay.
So I'm gonna connect you with Treasurer Lane and connect you to those programs, so we can help you fix your credit and then get the necessary loans to fix up your property. But also, there may be an opportunity through ARPA to help you. Noel, I'm looking at you again. Through probably, well, I'm pretty sure there may be an opportunity there too to help you that way.
Okay, Noel.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your question.
And she's right, we do need banks for us, that lend to us and serve us. I'm just saying.
Hey everyone, Treasurer Lane. I'll be quick. I'm glad that you brought up that point. Can you say your name one more time? Ms. Dilworth. One of the things that we are collecting right now from banks are, especially the banks that the city does business with, is information about where they are and are not lending, what loans are getting approved and what loans are not getting approved. And from our standpoint, we don't want to do business as a city with entities that are not trying to make sure that the people in this room, the people that are in the city trying to grow and make themselves, trying to grow and make the city better, don't have the opportunity to do that. So we will be taking in that information. And also, like you said, I know that credit is a big thing and we do have an Office of Financial Empowerment to help with that. But we also know that we are working with these banks to also change the products that they offer. So historically, we know that things have been put in place, and what they'll say is, well, it's because you need to have 10 years or 20 years of this good credit, but we know that situations change and things happen, and communities of color, especially historically marginalized communities of color, are over-penalized for that. So we are also working with banks to make sure that they offer products that build those loans so that people don't have to go to payday lending spots and fall prey to more vehicles that don't actually help but do more harm. So we are working on that, and we'll have more reports on that coming out soon. But thank you for bringing that to everyone in this room's attention.
I'm a little short, but
Pull it
I
down,
could.
pull it down. No, just the mic.
I don't want to break anything. But I talk loud.
All right, there we go.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jones and the panel, for allowing the citizens of St. Louis to be involved in the process. My name is Tiana Broadway, and I am a citizen and a homeowner of the Hyde Park neighborhood. And I'm a grandmother and of 14. And so right now I'm advocating for the park in our ward, which is Windsor Park. It's a beautiful park that sits right there on Angelica between Blair and 19th Street. And I'm advocating for the children that plays there, because I find that we have more children in our neighborhood recently than we've had in the last several years. And the problem with the park, and I've addressed this with the Parks Department, contacted CSB. A couple of years ago, somebody stole the fence from the park. I even contacted the mayor's office about this, because I was kind of like, oh wow, They stole the fence, and my alderman knows about it. And they just left the poles up and at the baseball diamond. And this diamond, the kids go over there and they play kickball in the diamond. And where we are across, it's homes across the street from the diamond. So there's nothing up there now to protect the balls or anything from coming outside of the park. That's one thing I would love for us to advocate. I'm advocating for our parks, the small parks, especially in the St. Louis north side of the city. Also, the kids play in that park. The bathrooms are always closed. We don't ever have park rangers that come over to the park or visit and drive by to make sure that the kids are safe, and don't ever hardly see a park ranger. The trash cans, we have a couple of trash cans at one corner of the park, but none at the other end, and they just throw trash. And me and my husband and my neighbors, we get out there and we pick up the trash all the time. And now that that fence gone, they throwing the trash where the fence used to be. And so they just drive by and throw trash everywhere. It's a beautiful park. It really doesn't have a lot wrong with it, but it's going downhill. And I'm passionate about the kids playing in a beautiful park like in other areas of our city. And so that was my concern, and I just wanted to address that. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
You're welcome.
Got in a few notes, getting older, so it's tougher to remember. I want to address all your comments. Windsor Park, 3rd Ward. Coincidentally, I was on a Zoom call with Alderman Brandon Bosley this afternoon. I used to work with Freeman Bosley. We'll assess that. However many cans are needed, we'll put the trash cans there. We find that trash cans aren't always the answer, because our parks get trash at times in different parts of the city, north, south, east, and west. Trash cans aren't always the answer. We'll see how many we have there, we'll put them up. I may have spoken to you last year, I think I did from your smile. That project, well, not you're smiling at me, you're smiling about hopefully what I'm about ready to say. That is a capital project with that fence that was destroyed and damaged and stolen. We've talked to Alderman Bosley, it's a priority, and we are going to have the fence replaced. I'm not going to say tonight, here's the date it will be replaced. It's already in the works with Board of Public Service. You also mentioned the kids and the youth. Let me assure you that we've had discussions with a nonprofit who does soccer play. We've looked at DeSoto Park. We've been in touch with the new MLS team and one of their contacts that we work with closely. She's a very responsive individual. We've talked about putting league play in DeSoto Park specifically. I don't have an update on that because they're very busy down at MLS, but we want to put soccer in DeSoto. So I want to assure you, my number is 289-5310. Feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to have another conversation, and I can engage Kim Higley, our Commissioner of Parks, so we're all on the same page. But we are familiar with DeSoto Park in the 3rd Ward. So I hope that's helpful. Nothing definitive. We'll be happy to talk to you.
Yeah, and DeSoto, that was a little confusing because I'm talking about Windsor.
Windsor, excuse me, I kept saying DeSoto. Yeah. Windsor, I'm familiar with Windsor. We had some problems up at Windsor, as you know, with some crime. But I was saying DeSoto the whole time. You know exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah,
yeah. I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
Yes, and that's another problem. They you know, we don't know if they're selling drugs over there, but they go over there with our children, and they meet up over there. Kids are playing, and we just need more park rangers for our small parks as well. And so that's why I'm advocating for.
Sorry to interject, I can walk on you, ma'am.
Go.
The park rangers, as of 2013, are no longer affiliated with the Park Division.
Okay.
Local control, they're with the police department. But we work with Lieutenant Parker Staten, we work with Sergeant LaFolia Hall, we're in constant communication. Director Isom's here, we work with Director Isom, Dr. Isom. All I can say is we work to get them there the best they can, and we work with their schedules as best we can. Sorry for saying the wrong part.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, park rangers are under the police department now, so the park rangers work in coordination with the district officers to patrol the parks. But after the meeting, I can get more information about what's happening in the park, the times that it's happening, so we could do a better job of going there and checking out what's going on.
Yeah, because a lot of times they don't even have permits, and then they trash the park, and then they leave it up for us to clean up, but that's okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Hello, giving honor to you, Mayor Jones, everyone in their respective places. My name is Ashley Mosley. I'm a healthcare worker. I've been in the field for over 15 years. Thank you. I'm on the executive board for my local. And I'm just here tonight to speak for more than 1,000 SEIU healthcare members who live and work in the city of St. Louis. We have collective bargaining agreements with more than half of the nursing homes in the city of St. Louis, with home care agencies, and with SLU Hospital. The pandemic was devastating for healthcare workers and still is causing unnecessary illness and death. My co-workers and I needed additional PPE and training during the pandemic, and we did not receive it. In the early days of the pandemic, we were using scarves and homemade masks for PPE just to keep our families safe. I ended up contracting COVID, and so did a lot of my coworkers. The numbers are shocking. More than 4,096 nursing homes, residents, and 68 home workers in Missouri have died from COVID. Nursing home, hospitals, and home health care agencies, city and county, department, and regulators like CMS and OSHA must do a better job at protecting the lives that have been entrusted to them. SEIU Healthcare has thought long and hard about this, and we have a few solutions. You will notice that we have brought a petition tonight. Go on and show that petition out, Ms. Lavetta. Our petition was signed by more than 500 frontline healthcare workers throughout the state, busy workers. After they finished their 12-hour shifts, they signed and circulated this petition because they believe that our broken healthcare system can be fixed. And here's what the petition says. We demand that our cities and counties, 1, appoint worker safety advocates, and 2, fund worker safety training. We have presented this petition to the St. Louis County Council and to the County and the Kansas City Council as well. Okay, I got a little time. And I just want to say, the healthcare field is really suffering right now for healthcare workers. And I know we're short-staffed everywhere, but it's something special when we're short-staffed in the healthcare facilities because it impacts the quality of care in the nursing homes, it impacts the quality of care in the hospitals, and we cannot have that. The healthcare workers are feeling like we're overlooked, we're feeling overworked, and we're dependent on you to look out for us. We're dependent on each and every one of you to not only just hear us tonight with your ears, but hear us with your hearts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Martin.
Good evening. My name is Lavetta Richardson. I'm a steward at Mary Queen and Mother Center, as well as a city resident, as well as 1,000 of my SEIU members. We need a working safety advocate who can assist workers in filing complaints and who will hold public hearings where workers and residents, patients, and the public can voice their concerns with long-term care and hospital care in our area. Our worker safety advocate will help workers file OSHA complaints and hold public hearings. We believe that the better infection training, we keep our residents and clients safer from infections. It will help make work safer on the job. Better infection control training will also help the spread of COVID in our communities. Our training program will be open to all healthcare workers, whether they're union or non-union, because we want to include all and welcome everyone. APRA dollars were intended to strengthen our healthcare systems to both assist our community recovering from the current pandemic and to help us prepare for future healthcare emergencies. Please consider use the APRA funds for workers' safety advocate position in the health department, as well as our healthcare workers' safety training.
Thank you.
My people have arrived, so I'll gladly field this one. I want to thank you so much for your leadership and your bravery in representing healthcare workers and healthcare heroes across the city. For those of you who don't know me, my background before coming to this role, I've been the Director of Health for 6 months now, so I still get to call myself a rookie. But prior to that, I came from this as an infectious diseases doctor and public health expert as by way of training. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was a 7-month pregnant infectious diseases doctor working at the John Cochrane VA. I was the only Black woman in our division. I was the only pregnant woman in my division. And I was so afraid, not just for my life, but the life of my unborn child. At that time, there's no data, right? The pandemic had just dropped. We didn't know how this was gonna affect us as healthcare workers. And we certainly didn't have any rules in place to protect the vulnerable of us as healthcare workers. Anyone who knows me, and many of you are getting to know me, knows that one of my biggest pet peeves is how doctors get all the shine, right? Frontline heroes was a lot of people in white coats. But if you've ever walked the halls of a hospital, a clinic, or any sort of healthcare facility, you know one thing to be true. Doctors get to walk in and out of rooms, sometimes 15, 20 minutes. If you got a good doctor, 30 minutes. Nurses are there all the time. Nurses are there all the time. But beyond that, healthcare is about social workers, community workers, health behavior coaches, people who are cleaning our hospitals and bringing in food. Those were the real heroes of our pandemic. So to hear you talk about the crisis during the pandemic where PPE was not available, where you are coming to your job to protect us and putting your own health and life at risk, is very real for me. Very, very, very real for me and very true. We have a problem that was brought to light in the pandemic that, if we're being very real, existed way before the pandemic. So I want to acknowledge and to say that I hear everything that you're saying to be true. I will meet with you personally after this to make sure that you have my contact information and my card so that we can talk, because one of the things that disappointed me was that I wasn't on your list of people that you reached out to. So we need to have a meeting, talk about worker safety, right? Because you can't say the city hasn't responded because you haven't spoken to me yet, child. So we need to advocate for it. So the problem is there's healthcare and then there's business, right? You have private entities and public entities. I have a way easier jurisdiction over what happens around training and safety in places that are covered either under the city or are considered public entities. Private entities, especially nursing homes, are private businesses, really. So there's an advocacy piece that I can play as director, but from a business perspective, it's gonna take a lot more of a long-term plan. One thing I don't do, especially in public on a mic with a bunch of cameras around, is sell things that I can't deliver, okay? So what we need to do together is come up with short-term and long-term goals. The short-term goals are gonna be around what I can do to liaise with all the different entities that cover our healthcare workers, which are very diverse, if you're being very honest, right? Hospitals, nursing homes, FQHCs, all have very different ways that they manage their workers, right? So we've got that's a huge policy umbrella. And I'm not gonna lie to you that that's something that we can take care of at the city in weeks or even months. That's gonna be a long-term project, but we don't get started if we don't get started, right? But there are simple things that I can do. I went from having no power to a little bit of power, child. Let me tell you what my little bit of power can do, right? When you've got a letterhead with the Tashara Jones seal on one side and my seal on the other side, and you write letters and you convene people and you talk about standards of practice and you talk about the expectations of the city, that moves people. So I do think there's a lot we can do around worker safety. I feel even more confident that there's a lot we can do around training, because there's a lot of organizations that are ready to mobilize around this and that are doing great work. So I'd love for us to talk, but also to set some deadlines so that there's some accountability between you and my office. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Quick question for the disease lady. I thought you couldn't catch COVID in a swim pool area, so why not like do like I did and purchase a hot tub and put chlorine in there and humidify your house with that to kill the virus. You don't have to.
I would love for somebody to make me a shirt with the disease lady on it, okay?
I mean, I apologize, but I'm just saying to solve
I
the
love it.
problem.
If you're an ID doc, you're a nerd, you like to be called a lot of things, and disease lady is right up my alley, so I actually genuinely love it.
Yeah, well, you know.
So thank you for asking that question. Let's talk a little
But
bit.
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm on something else. I'm just for y'all to help save lives. Get your hot tub, put some chlorine in it.
Please continue.
Kill that virus. Now, you set me back to zero because I'm on something else. I know, big deal. Let me go really fast. Dropping market rate rent. I submitted some programs to the office. I don't know if you got them or not with the sleeping centers, converting these empty vacant schools into sleep centers so people can stay within 5 years, accumulate the money to purchase a house without banks or loans. Instead of buying the sleeping centers from China and importing them, since we have this money and we need to basically purchase the machinery to manufacture our own plastic sleep centers, queen size, kings, and juniors. And we got a few locations we can put these places. Once we take away the renters, we can get the rent to drop. That would bring more people into the city. That would bring more businesses here because you got more residual income to spend. That's just one of my issues. Alternative transportation. I got a manufacturer in China and want to come to St. Louis. If we can purchase $1 million worth of scooters in advance, so be looking for an invoice. Comptroller, raise your hand.
Comptroller.
You're not up here? I'm just saying, be looking for the invoice because we making these things happen. How much time I got? Another minute? I will drop this reminder card off, but mostly, let's get this market rate rent down. I'm living in a vacant building right now in Walnut Park, and we have submitted. Well, I'm a retired journeyman, so I do building repairs and maintenance, heating and cooling, plumbing, and all that. See, I done empty my resume out on y'all. Anyway, alternative transportation, the market rate rent issue, and treetop living in Walnut Park so we can get the property value up. That's basically, have you ever seen the cartoon characters, the Jetsons, putting a house on a pedestal, even with the treetops? You can do that now. Yeah. 2-story frame houses. Do not send our bricks out of St. Louis. Keep them here. Right. Keep our bricks. Stop putting them on the train. I got another minute left. Hang on, y'all got another minute left. Ironman competition track, Cass and Jefferson behind Prairie Argo where DeSoto plays soccer at. So you got the dirt, and you just get the rest of the junk, throw it in there. I can show y'all how to create work sites. That means before you go to the next stage, you have to stack a lot of boxes to settle weight so the next group can come through the door to do the same thing, cargo nets and all that. We need those things. We have a big enough competition, we can bring them to St. Louis when the hotels are down in the city. Again, my name is Tyrone Austin, and I'm a retired journeyman maintenance technician. And that guy, baby.
Thank you so much. And a lot of things. One thing I did want to raise up, that was at the beginning of your comment, was around.
Hang on, I got 8 minutes. 8 seconds. Streets. Add salt and used tire chips, rubber from the tires they got from the used tires they dump in the alley, and salt. Put that in the tire in the asphalt. It'll create heat and crack the ice this winter. Yay!
Amongst the many things, and we have note takers taking down all the things, at the beginning of your comment, you talked a little bit about unsheltered populations and vacancy, and I was wondering if anybody would like to speak on that kind of issue, if there's any use of ARPA funds so far or moving forward.
Yes, on helping our unhoused neighbors, we have set aside over $18 million in the first round of ARPA funds for helping our Department of Human Services. There are plans to try to find land to build tiny home villages and put wraparound services with them. We realize that everybody doesn't want to go to a congregate shelter, so we're not trying to force them, but trying to find, but still keeping true to our ultimate goal, which is to move people into permanent and supportive housing to help them and get them access to the resources they need.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson.
Please go ahead. Hi, good evening. My name is Nate Lindsay. I'm a Dutchtown resident. I live at Merrimack in Louisiana, and I'm also the volunteer president for Dutchtown Main Streets, which is one of these small organizations that we talked about earlier that may be getting some ARPA money. I wanted to answer the question of transparency myself and say that the best way to make sure that we're spending that money correctly is to show up to our community-led meetings and tell us how to spend it. And so you guys can visit DutchtownSTL.org to find out how to do that. We have 4 separate committees. We don't have ARPA money right now, but we have a little bit to do small-scale projects, and so I'd encourage you to do that. What I'm here to ask, I do have 3 questions because I have the mayor's cabinet here. They are operational questions. They go from easiest to hardest, and they're requests that I think my organization has in order to make doing community building work a little bit easier. So the first one, the easiest one. Can the city of St. Louis adopt electronic signatures? Recently, a city department asked me to send in 7 wet original signatures by mail to do something that didn't involve me handing over any money or real estate property. I think the city councilor's office can probably inform the city departments about the 2000 Electronic Signature Act and the fact that Missouri recognizes that. Number 2, empower the new neighborhood managers under SLDC. We have worked with a lot of SLDC employees by different names that do what sound like a very similar job title. I think that those people need to be empowered with best practices and authority. By best practices, I mean if Delmar does street calming and painting and they figure out how to do it, that same process should be able to replicate very easily in Dutchtown and everywhere else in the city. It shouldn't take reinventing the wheel every time when we do these things. By authority, I mean BPS needs to treat SLDC's employees as if they are doing neighborhood transformation, because that's what they're doing. They represent the public good, and they're here for us, and we need them to be treated as such. Number 3, and this one I think is tough. Can we make equity explicit in all of our city budgets? I was very excited to hear the mayor talk about KPIs and how we're going to track equity, but if we don't put that into our budgets, we're not going to get very far. We need to make sure that our budgets are documents that reflect this city's morals and where it wants to head. And unless equity indicators are put into every single department's budgets, we're going to try to do transformation without actually transforming our municipal operations and methods, and it's not going to work. Thank you.
Okay, Nate. Why'd you go? Come on back, Nate. Let's have a conversation. On electronic signatures, we just hired a new Chief Technology Officer, Simon Huang, and he is working on trying to improve our technology infrastructure. I wish we had electronic signatures as well. My hands cramp up every day from the things that I have to sign. From bonding documents to appointing people to boards and commissions to proclamations. I wish we had it too. So please know that addressing our technology is something that is on our agenda. We may not get there tomorrow, but it is on our agenda. And hopefully we'll be able to spend some ARPA funds to do so. Empowering neighborhood managers at SLDC, you're absolutely right. The neighborhood managers their number 1 priority will be to work with neighborhood organizations and CDCs like yours and make sure that you're able to implement your neighborhood plans that you've worked so hard to get public input and to put together. So they will be the liaison between your neighborhood CDCs and SLDC and the rest of the city government to make sure that you can implement your plans and your agenda. And on your 3rd note, on making equity explicit in our department budgets, at the beginning of this year, we hired a Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer, Dr. Vernon Mitchell, and that is his primary job. Well, one of his primary jobs, but making sure that we insert equity into every piece of city government as possible. So he is often my seat at the table when I'm not available, and he is not afraid to tell you if you need help in the equity department. So these are all things that we're paying attention to and trying to move on.
I think it would be great if he first started looking at the capital improvements plan to make sure that equity is something that they look at in those capital improvement projects.
Well, in the last capital improvement plan, we did the Citizens Advisory Committee that informed the capital budget at the end. So we're trying to make sure that we have public input in as many processes as possible.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, come on, I'm not that short.
You had to talk over it.
Hold up. Can everybody hear me? All right, I said, can everybody hear me? All right, cool. All right. Am I good? Cool. All right, so my name is Joshua Lawrence. I use he, him, his pronouns. I really only speak for myself, but I do have never-ending solidarity with SEIU. I've been to some of your actions. You folks are killing it in the ballpark of just making sure your message is heard, so never-ending solidarity with you folks. I pretty much echo everything that's been said. I know a lot of folks are talking about infrastructure, and I do think public transit is a key part of that. The less we use the infrastructure, the less we actually have to fix it, right? So I would love for our bus system to actually be working a lot more than it actually is. Now, one reason why I'm a huge supporter of Mayor Jones and one reason why I'm a huge supporter of the administration is not having to rebuild the wheel every time, right? We're able to look at other cities and what they are doing. So Kansas City and Detroit have both used ARPA funds to guarantee tenants the right to counsel. I do see some alder folks in here. I do believe that a tenant bill of rights should be on your legislative calendar. That's outside of this, but I do want to shout that out. With the ARPA funds, we are talking about how we transform St. Louis, right? Housing is that pivotal step, right? We want to talk about kids, keeping them housed so they can stay at the same school. That is part, right? Folks who have substance use disorders, making sure that they are housed is key to helping them fix their lives, right? Beyond that, I just really want a jet ski. I don't know, I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, if you want, I'm not gonna say no. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Thank you.
I have to give Joshua a shout out here. If you aren't following STL Political Clips,
Yeah, so it's STL Politiclips.
Politiclips.
It's a C that combines it. It's two C's.
Yeah, whatever he said. If you follow that on Twitter, because he does an excellent job of watching all of the meetings that happen at the board and pretty much posting all of the highlights. And that's also how I stay informed sometimes because I'm not able to watch everything. But I just wanted to tell you personally, I think you're doing a great job.
Well, now I'm really glad I spoke.
Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name's Kirsten Petty. I am the 20th Ward Committee woman and also part of Gravois Park Neighborhood Association. My husband is the president over there. Hi, honey. So I have two quick things. May not be related to ARPA funds, but they are city related. Will be in charge of the LRA now, and will there be an improvement process for appeals for rejected applications? And my second, it's not sort of a question, more of a grievance. We have to do something at Potomac and Gravois. The intersection there is very, very dangerous stretch of road. Yeah, you can clap for, well, not clap for that because it's horrible. We have fatalities and we've had many injuries and accidents there. It is right in front of a grocery store, the South Grand Schnucks, and we are trying to either get a pedestrian crossing sign or some type of refuge for people to stop. This grocery store is very important to our neighborhood because we have many, many people who do not have access to cars and they have to walk, and some are either disabled or unable to walk freely or quickly. So they're literally taking their lives in their hands just trying to get groceries. So we need to do something about this intersection. It's been several years, we've made several complaints, so I thought in public forum and some public shaming might help. So, and those are my two questions.
Yes. To answer your first question first, long story short, yes, we are addressing LRA, in the process of hiring a new director there and to totally revamp that process. We realize that has caused a lot of frustration in recent years, and so we recognize that and are taking the steps to address that. And on the streets, we got Kemp Blake here who can address that.
You said Potomac and Gravelly, correct?
I'm sorry?
You said Potomac and Gravelly?
Yes, in front of the Schnucks.
Absolutely. So it's a little hairier.
Sorry, if you could move the mic just a little bit closer.
It's a little hairier because Gravelly is a state-maintained street.
Yes, we're aware.
But we deal or meet with MoDOT, and my new boss is from MoDOT.
Okay.
So it should make it a little bit easier. And we also have 2 traffic engineers on staff. So I will take that to our 2 traffic engineers and also let Jennifer Wade from MoDOT know that there's an interest and at least have them start looking into it. I'm not familiar if they have looked at it in the past or not.
Well, I was contacted last year and they said that there's going to be a traffic study, but unfortunately, I did not write down the person's name down, and when I tried to figure out who it was, no one has responded back to me to who that was. So I don't know if the traffic study was completed or what the result was. However, on Manchester in the county, they do have pedestrian warning signs on Manchester, which I believe is also a highway. So
Yeah.
I know it can be done.
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Monica Bowers. I represent a young African-American business owner of St. Louis City. I own a home health care. It is called Above and Beyond Care. I also own a lot of property in St. Louis City. Outright, I don't have a mortgage on it. I have spent my hard-earned money on buying these properties. I want to build up my city. I look at all these faces here today, and I know that it's a 50-year issue. It's something called Northside Regeneration that a man named Paul McKee owned, Mrs. Jones. He's been owning these properties for over 50 years. He owns 65% of the broke-down houses in St. Louis City, including the North Side and the JDL where they are doing development at right now, $1 million developments. I was able to go into the mayor's office and speak with Mr. Alexander before Ms. Cruson left in order to get me one small piece of the land that I had to fight the LRA for. Well, doing research with the LRA, 50 years ago, they sold Paul McKee, which is Northside Regeneration, and 50 other property names. He has 50 other companies that he owns the city of St. Louis. Well, I've been trying to get a piece of the pie to open up a tiny living facility, a tiny home for people with AIDS and senior living. All of my seniors that are with my agency, they have homes, but within 350 feet of every vacant home, it's 85% prone to have violence, crime, criminal activity. So we can fix the street lights and we can fix the streets, but if 10 houses on a street where it's only five homes that's livable, if the other 5 are vacant and full of drug addicts and squatters and crime, we will never get the quality out of our homes. Our market rate will always crash. St. Louis City will never be valuable. Ms. Jones, I'm a Ruth Bader Ginsburg type of girl, and I know for a fact that you will be the one that changes this. Again, my name is Monica Bowers. The LRA is not even legal. 1971 law says unless there are 500,000 occupants of the city of St. Louis, they should not even be in play. Well, the city of St. Louis does not make us have occupancy permits. They make us apply for an occupancy permit when we purchase a home, but they do not make us hold one. We only have to apply. We do not have to get it. That's the law. I read it. 1971 law that has not been revised, saying unless there are 500,000 occupants in the city of St. Louis, LRA should not exist. They have redlined us 100%. They have taken our homes and auctioned them off in the city. My father is 79 years old. He has owned his home for 60 years. They have came and auctioned off my father's house. The MSD are saying that they have liens on these homes. Well, if they have liens on the home, how can the city of St. Louis sell them? And they're not telling people that when they sell their homes on the auction block, the city of St. Louis can only make the money that you owe them. If they sold your home for $10,000, their money is sitting in surplus. Why aren't they telling them that the city made money off of them and it's money sitting to protect these people? I'm here to fight for my clients. I'm sorry I'm going over time. I'm here to speak for my clients. I'm here to speak for all the citizens of St. Louis, black, white, Puerto Rican, Latino. I don't care if they blind, cripple, or crazy. I'm standing here with all the sense in my mind, Ms. Jones, and I ask you, and I'm sure that they have told you, I've come to your office numerous times and I have not saw you. But I want you to make a difference and put Mr. Paul McKee, that good old boy, to rest today.
Oh, you said a mouthful. I share your frustration with Mr. McKee, especially with how he has bastardized the name of Homer G. Phillips and named a 3-bed urgent care that doesn't even take public insurance, a hospital. And we know what Homer G. Phillips means to our community.
Yes,
And that's not it.
not it.
And I have said publicly that he needs to take Homer G's name off of that hospital and out of his mouth. You're right, LRA has brought a lot of people frustrations, and so we have put a pause on LRA and are trying to revamp it so it works for the people, because your tax dollars pay our salaries. We are accountable to you. Please know that there are other things in play that I cannot speak about to try to hold Mr. McKee accountable. Because that also ties our hands on the things that we want to do. In particular, we have made a commitment of $150 million to North St. Louis through the Roadmap to Economic Justice. We're using that to empower, develop, and transform North St. Louis, but also as a down payment to attract more private investment. So we have blocks that have more than 10 homes and vacant land. Because when I walk out of my house every day on Cabrini and Belt, I see a whole swath of vacant land on the other side of my street. So I feel you, I see you, and I hear you. And please know that I am laser focused on making sure that we reverse decades of historic disinvestment in communities in North St. Louis and also parts of South St. Louis.
Good evening. My name is Sister Connie Probst. I live in the 25th Ward here on the south side. I have 4 points. One is mental health. I heard broad, non-specific policy. I didn't hear anything about counseling, doctors, or affordable medicine. Because without that, the wait list for counseling is years long. So it's not going to help anybody unless we get the counselors good pay. So what is your plan using ARPA? Second one, I heard the word used once tonight, broadband. What are the specific plans for implementing broadband throughout the city of St. Louis? Third, I seen the city forestry cut down trees, especially on Merrimack, but I have not seen trees being replanted on the streets, specifically on the south side. Because again our trees will decrease heating, will decrease our use for air conditioning. That leads to the fourth one. St. Louis's air quality stinks. We have high air pollution, and anybody in this city who has asthma knows it. Whether you're 1 month old to 99 years old. Asthma is a major issue in this city. We have 4 major highways, and where do most of the poor live is along those highways. We are not doing anything for the companies who are polluting, like right down the street, 10 blocks. What are we doing to hold all these polluting companies accountable for what they're putting in our air in the city? Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go, I know there were 4 parts. If we could just keep it concise to try and get through the last couple people in the line.
I'm going to start with the mental health question because that was directed. I like a woman who talks specifics. So let's talk specifics. When I inherited the public health department in October of last year, there was not one city employee that was employed to address mental health. We had completely moved away from clinical services. So I inherited a health department that's only way of dealing with mental health was through subcontracting to external contractors. When the only way that you can do business as far as mental health is to subcontract, that dilutes your priorities. You're at the mercy of what those individual contractors do. And because of the high turnover and low salaries in the city, I have a health department a quarter the size of a city the size of St. Louis, and a budget that's equally as small, okay? There's, for the range of money invested in public health in the country, $7 per head to $215. Missouri invests $7 per head. So the issue around mental health has been long-standing and has been exacerbated by the pandemic. So when I came in, my boss, the mayor, is the first mayor to address this head-on. And when I took to her a budget to create a new division for behavioral health, she has supported me. We will be presenting that to the Board of Aldermen, and if approved, we will be opening the first bureau for behavioral health that the city has ever had. We have submitted within that request 31 new positions for the entire city, most of which will be through that behavioral health bureau. But from what you've heard, your expectations have to be reasonable. I'm building this from the job up. That means posting positions, hiring people, training people. So my second approach to this is to have two first manageable projects for us to deal with this. Those 2 will be addressing the opioid crisis, and we have partnered with the CDC and the state around this to bring in additional dollars and work capacity to deal with the opioid crisis. The second is linkage to care for mental health. The issue is not that we don't have mental health providers, it's that we have no coordinated system to get to them. And we have an equity issue. So I've hired an epidemiologist directly that will only be dealing with this issue so we can figure out where the deficits in care to behavioral health are, be able to redirect services. We're working with mental health leaders in the region, mental health board, the leaders of center, and our local hospitals and FQHCs to have a coordinated system. Before you can refer people though, you need to make sure that the quality of healthcare has been addressed. So that second project I talked about will be around standardizing mental health care in the city. Standards of care, quality care, that are monitored by the health department to make sure that whether you are a traditional behavioral health provider or an alternative one, you are following standards of care. Anyone can say that they're a mental health provider, and they can hurt people. They can actually kill people. So we've got to have standards of care. Then we've got to have linkage to care to reduce the time, which right now in the city is 6 to 8 months before someone can ask for an appointment to get to one. And we're going to use the same model that we've used in HIV, where we went from the same time to a month to get people in service. I can talk to you afterwards more about specifics, but that's where we're starting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're nearing the end of our time, and we want to make sure we can get as many people left. So those in line, we're going to do our best to get to you, but we won't have any additional people, space for additional people to go up. So if you can please try and keep it direct, concise as much as you can, just so we can get to as many people as possible. Please go ahead.
Thanks. I'm Emily Hubbard. I used to live in Dutchtown, and now I live in Carondelet, but I'm very excited about being in the new 3rd Ward. And I would like to welcome you all to my school. This is where my children go to school, my youngest children. And I just wonder how many of y'all have been in this building before. Thank you. I need to see, I know that you are not in charge of the schools and that it's a good model. I need to see the city come out all the way and support our public schools. We cannot even get these rabble-rousers in the park who play basketball on the street and do who knows what and brandish their weapons. Like right there, my kids are in this school, and it does not feel, I feel like they are safe in the building. It does not feel like they are as safe as they could be. And children, I don't even want to call them a resource because that puts them in the frame of money, and they're so much more precious than that. And it does not feel like this city cares about children, and I am sorry, it does not. We can't keep our kids safe on the street because people speed and blow past the stop signs. Is a very anxious time. That's one. Number two is, can you clarify about bathrooms being open in the park? Because nothing ruins a park trip when the bathrooms don't work and your kids have to go. Then you just have to go home and it ruins everything.
Yeah. So we have 110 parks. A lot have bathrooms. There's quite a few that don't. We de-winterize those bathrooms in the spring, and it's based upon seasonal help. Those are the folks that clean them. We've had aldermen over the years that don't want their bathrooms open. They specifically asked us that because our sinks are ripped out, copper stolen, et cetera, damaged. But at the end of the day, if you give me a specific reference, I don't know if you're talking with
No, just in general.
Yeah.
It is so disturbing that every person comes up with a problem and you ask for their specific problem, but everything is part of a structural issue. I want all the parks to have functioning bathrooms. I want nobody in this city to feel like they need to steal copper pipes to pay their bills. I'm sorry.
I know I can't control those issues.
I know, that's over here. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to yell. My third question is, I'm so excited about the infrastructure and the potholes getting fixed, but it's too late for us. We already had to pay $4,000 to fix the axles and things on our car. Is there any way we can give city residents some sort of rebate, either because our public transportation stinks or because our cars are getting ruined driving on their streets? That would be like a great direct payment idea, in my opinion. And I think we should get Spire to give us some money too, because they are torn up every street that I've lived on and it's driving me crazy. Okay, that's all, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Enoch Salam. I am from Belize. That's a small country right below Mexico in the Caribbean. I have been a resident of St. Louis for 4 years. I'll just give you a little backstory very quickly. My wife is from the county. Her entire family spoke to us that we should not purchase in the city. I decided that I came from the jungle of the Caribbean, so I don't want to live in the jungles. So I decided to move downtown. So I bought a condo off Washington on Locust. I bought it for the vibrancy. 4 years ago, it was wonderful, it's vibrant. I understand that the crime has increased, but fighting crime does not mean killing the vibrancy on Washington. We don't have those problems at the aquarium facility. We don't have those problems at Bush Stadium. Washington Avenue has 4 police stations within a 3-block radius. Why is it that we don't get the type of police presence on Washington? Instead of blocking off the streets, killing the businesses, killing the vibrant, that is why we invested downtown. Not for us to feel scared to walk on the street and locked up. I'm always on the street, I'm always out there, I don't see the police presence, and we see the problem starting at night, and we see the police officers not aggressively stopping crime. So please, don't kill the vibrancy of Washington for safety. And lastly, I spoke to the treasurer about this. I belong to the Caribbean diaspora. We're here, we're in St. Louis, and we want to be a part of this wonderful community. So in any way possible that we can be a part of this city, feel integrated, and don't, because most of my Caribbean friends are moving out to the county because we don't feel safe. Most of them are professionals, they're nurses. They want a warm, wholesome environment. I think that downtown is the place to be. So in any way that the city can utilize the services of us so that we can integrate and be a part of your community, we want to be. Thank you very much.
So I appreciate your comments about downtown. As we work through the issues through downtown, there's always a balance that we're trying to strike between how we control traffic, because a lot of people want to come downtown, enjoy the game, enjoy the nightlife, enjoy the restaurants downtown, but we also have residents who live downtown, who work and need to get to their place of residence. So, and then the other part is that we want to be very careful with our enforcement as well. We don't want to be too overburdensome with our law enforcement and also impede people's ability to have a good time downtown. So what I say is that we're working with the police, we're working with the downtown SID, we have Sheriff's Department who is deployed on weekends. What I would ask you is that as we have sort of community meetings, we get more feedback from the community as to what is the proper balance between blocking off streets, enforcement, and other measures that we're trying to do to calm traffic downtown. I'm not suggesting that we have all the answers right now, but we are trying to strike a balance between people enjoying downtown, controlling the traffic that comes into the downtown area, but also enforcement. And so we'll continue to do that. I'll give you my information so you can talk to my office and then wrap into the broader community conversation about what is the exact balance of enforcement, traffic control downtown.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mayor and the Cabinet. My name is Michael Powers, and I am a member of the Community Improvement District here in Dutchtown, and also a resident of the 7th Ward. I had the opportunity earlier in the year last year to sit on the Capital Advisory Committee for Public Improvements, which every year the city's budget office is supposed to have had a citizen process for having an opinion about the budget, but this was, the last round was the first time really that we had been engaged in a long time, and the Alder folks had the opportunity to appoint 2 residents. So there were 2 of us from each ward who spent a whole lot of time talking to department heads, talking to city managers, talking to the budget director, talking to the mayor's office to get as much information as we could, and it's a valuable process because if you don't know about the budget, you don't know what to comment on. I wanted to give some feedback from those meetings that we provided in writing. Things that were missing from the budget that we'd like, the committee members opined that they'd like to see. For the neighborhoods, investments in Operation Brightside. It's a great program. It's supported by private dollars. It doesn't get the funding it deserves, and it does a lot of great work. Funding additional speed humps on residential streets. We asked for 1,000 new ones. The purchase of adopt-a-road signs that would allow private companies to better maintain our streets because we know that we are limited with staff at City Hall. Funding additional street sweepers and making street sweeping not equal on side streets and on commercial district roads because those are the roads that have the most traffic and the most litter. Funding a citywide neighborhood identity program so that neighborhoods can brand themselves. Providing match funds for LRA so that the 50-50 sidewalk program is equally distributed. If you don't have an owner and the city owns it, the sidewalk never gets repaired. Purchasing of litter bins, renovating of the greenhouse at Forest Park, establishing of a tool lending library citywide. For good governance, improving the gallery at the Board of Aldermen so we can actually sit there and watch our legislators when they come back. Removing the parking turnabout, the VIP parking in front of City Hall so that it's a space that we can come and protest. Establishment of an Office of Performance and Accountability because we know that funding is one component of this, But the other component is management, and the departments need better tools, and we need to be able to hold our departments accountable. I'll provide more of this, but one piece of legislation the Alderman has in front of the board right now is a resolution that would put the city in the driver's seat to redevelop our public schools. I would like to see that moved forward if we can, and I think that it's come to be a proposal that the mayor's office has as well. Those are huge opportunities for us. The city has access to them, and we own them as a public, and they've been vacant for a decade or longer. Thank you very much.
So these will be our last two speakers. Thank you both so much.
Awesome. I'll be brief. This is more of a statement than a question, but hello, my name is Ashton. I live in the 6th Ward. I am a social worker. I am an environmental organizer. I live with asthma, and I'm a millennial / Gen Z, right on the cusp of, and I'm absolutely terrified about the climate crisis. I am concerned about the high rates of childhood asthma in the city as someone who also lives with asthma, as we already had a little bit of a conversation about that earlier. But in St. Louis City, Black children are 10 times as likely to be hospitalized for asthma due to their white counterparts, and that is very, very concerning to me. But there is no single thing that causes asthma, right? It's a bunch of issues. But I believe that these funds could be used in a way to reduce this terrible public health issue that has been heightened and even more stressful to have now with the pandemic. Housing issues like exposure to mold, poor weatherization, and energy efficiency, which landlords should be held accountable towards correcting, is one issue or one way we could correct this or move towards correcting this. Illegal dumping is another issue that's impacting our air quality. Some ways that we could try to solve this issue is by implementing air monitors so that we can accurately measure the pollution being released into our shared airways and environment, and being able to hold those polluters accountable. I know folks within the Jones administration already are aware of this. I've talked to the wonderful Angela Pearson a few times about this. And I know there are also wonderful organizations in the community already doing this work within their churches, within their neighborhood blueprints. So it's something we could easily do and add to. And lastly, I just want to touch that Missouri is the second most coal-reliant state in the country after Texas. That we are and this is majorly impacting our air quality. We are burning so much coal, even though these coal plants are out in Franklin County, Jefferson County, that pollution is still making its way to the city and impacting our health and exacerbating the climate crisis, right? So I think another wonderful position would to be advocating for a just transition to 100% clean renewable energy for the city. So thank you.
Science, technology, engineering, math, all 4 subjects taught in one class, connecting classroom learning to the real world. You need to learn about STEM. Haven't you heard? Because in the future, if you want to make some ends, you need to learn about STEM. Matter. If it has mass and occupied space, it's called matter. That's what your books say. Matter what I'm talking about. Elements, compounds, mixture. That's what matter is made of. Matter goes to chemical change. Read your science book. This ain't no game. I am the self-proclaimed ambassador of educational hip-hop and R&B. I am the smartest rap writer alive because I take school books and I put them in the rhymes. One of our big solutions is that our kids didn't have nothing to do. Let's put them somewhere where they can get paid, taking educational material, converted into rap songs. They like to rap, let's make them make videos. Then let's put it on our website and get paid. Fund us. Let's make St. Louis where everybody want to go, because we got our babies doing educational stuff. We got to put something else on the plate. We got to. Currently, all the kids love to rap or sing. My company is called Smart Tunes for Kids. Simple. Music that's appropriate for your kids. Smart Tunes, parents, that's what it is. And I specialize in math and science. I was in St. Louis system. I was in the middle school, the kids couldn't read the lyrics. So I dropped down to first grade. So I'm gonna teach them how to read too. I got an ABC song to go like this here. My family is proud of me. Why? Because I know my ABC. Do you? I do. Do you? Here we go. A for the apple, B for the ball, C for the cat that live down the hall, D for the door, E for your ear, F for the fall that sits on the law, cause I know my ABCs. I know my ABCs. And I say, point at them. Do you? I do. You ought to see the kids. The kids call me, by the way, Mr. Hip Hop. And so I would love St. Louis to implement my program, Smart Tunes for Kids, right? All over. We need to make the whole world want to say, dang, St. Louis started educational hip hop and R&B. I've written 100 songs, 100 history songs. I got it all. I got a fraction song. Fraction, bad like Michael Jackson. Don't need no distractions when you're doing your fraction. Up top is the numerator. Remember that for later. It means apart. Studying fractions is not that hard. Then you have the slash line, let you know it's division time. Then down there, in the basement is the denominator.
Thank you. So
hey, somebody had to make you smile. Hey, so my name is Milton Henderson. I'm the CEO and Artistic Director of Smart Tunes for Kids. I live in the city. I ain't leaving. I prayed for this. God gave me this. He told me I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it without you, because I went to the Most High. And once you go to God, you went to the real source. So I already know the mayor already down with me, because I got one question to ask you. Do your baby do rap songs? If you say yeah, I want $1 million.
He likes rap.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
I got one thing for you. The St. Louis Violence, the VPC, the Violence Prevention Council. Commission has a grant for youth pop-up events. You should apply for it.
Hey, so can you write that down for me? Email it to me?
Yeah, so.
My email is MrHipHopUSA.
Wait a minute. Alderwoman Hubbard just literally texted me this information. She can get it to you. Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to end it with the last comment, so thank you so much, sir. So that concludes our ARPA Town Hall. Again, thank you so much for your time and for raising your voices. And please don't let this be the last time. I know for so many of y'all, you're passionate, you're working on these things. So please follow up and keep us accountable.